watching Roll Tide Daily, the new daily program for Crimson Tide fans, presented by SEC Country. Now, here's your host, former Alabama All-American, Mike Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back into this Thursday edition of Roll Tide Daily. I appreciate everybody joining us once again for hopefully the best 30 minutes of your day. I know it's the best 30 minutes of my day as we get ready here to wrap up the week and wrap up a lot of things here on this edition of Roll Tide Daily. And obviously, thanks for joining us. Hope you guys will continue to chime in here in the comment section. We've got a great schedule ahead of us. We're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa a little bit. We're going to talk about Bama's biggest threat inside the SEC, outside the SEC. Kind of an interesting comment from our friends over at Bama Hammer. Ronald Evans had an interesting comment about Kirby Smart. We're also going to talk about the new running back commit, Elin Robinson, a guy out of the D.C. area that commits down to Alabama, part of the 2019 cycle, a guy Nick Saban really loves. And here coming up at about 1:15 Eastern time, 12:15 Central time, we got my good buddy William Vallejos, offensive assistant for the Buffalo Bills, was on last year's staff up in Buffalo now alongside A.J. McCarron doing some things. Going to be great to get him on the show. Got a ton of questions for William Vallejos about last year at Alabama, the difference between the NFL and college coaching. And also, as always, the Throwback Thursday video today, a little bit of Marcel Darius getting mixed in to the hype a little bit. But before we move on, I do want to touch on the elephant in the room a little bit. A lot of people have asked this question in the comment section. Saturday is the last day for SEC Country. So us here at Roll Tide Daily, going to take a little bit of a summer break, a little bit of a hiatus, and hope to be back with you guys ASAP to carry you guys through the Alabama season. We started this show about 6 weeks ago and wanted to continue for 10 years, every Monday through Thursday, but the waters have gotten a little bit murky, so everybody after today's show will kind of stick with us, and hopefully an announcement will be coming out pretty soon about the future of the show. But thanks, everybody, for joining in. I do want to ask the question of the day, too, before we get started. Tua Tagovailoa, and we're going to talk about a guy named Daniel Jeremiah, who works for NFL.com later. We're going to ask the question, is Tua receiving too much hype at this point? Like, do you think it's detrimental to Tua and this Alabama football team? Is there too much rat poison headed Tua's way? Is he too overhyped by members of the media and some of the fans? Is he just getting too much praise at this point in the year? I can't wait to hear you guys' response to this question in the comment section. We've been wanting to ask this for quite some time. Do you really think that Tua Tagovailoa deserves all the hype coming his way, or do you think just a little bit right now in terms of where we sit that Tua Tagovailoa is a little bit overhyped? We'll move back into that conversation later, but can't wait to see everybody's reactions in terms of that question of the day. Robbie Lee Easterling saying Roll Tide. Roll Tide from Lacey Baker, Danny Baker, James Brewer, Roll Tide from Middle Tennessee. A lot of you guys already weighing back in. David Farish from RTR from Bend, Oregon. So thanks a lot for everybody joining in the comment section. We're also live on YouTube, so if you want to hop over there and take part in the show, love to see you over there. Without further ado, let's get rolling, though, on to topic number one. And this is an interesting one for me, and if you guys will stick with me for a little bit, I really want to dive down this rabbit hole a little bit in terms of who Bama's really biggest opposition will be in the coming years. Not just so much 2018, but the coming years in terms of who really could knock off the dynasty under Nick Saban. And I mentioned that we had an article from Bama Hammer from our friend Ronald Evans over there at Bama Hammer, kind of shedding some light on, he doesn't really think Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are the biggest opposition to Alabama this year for the coming years. I think we have a quote graphic to be able to put up on the screen for you guys right here. Like I said, this is from BamaHammer.com a couple of days ago. Kirby Smart's plan on replicating all things Saban may have one flaw. For a coach to win like Nick, he needs to be at least as smart as Nick. No one is calling Kirby a dummy, but ask this question. He goes on to ask the question here in the next slide. Among the three SEC East contenders, where does Kirby rank in knowing how to be a head coach? Most anyone, not a Bulldog, would rank Kirby behind Mullen and Will Muschamp. I think that's extremely interesting to kind of dive into, and obviously some bold words when, if you're an Alabama fan like me, I live over in Atlanta, I live over in the state of Georgia, getting to hear from a lot of Georgia Bulldogs fans, or even Florida fans, or even South Carolina fans about, hey, the dynasty might be coming to an end. There's a new team on the block. Kirby Smart's really building something over here. I think that's such a refreshing look from Ronald Evans at really how tough it's going to be. We've heard from Les Miles in the past. We heard from Gene Chizik back 8 years ago. We heard from a number of SEC teams that are going to be the new kid on the block. Remember when Kevin Sumlin and Johnny Manziel beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa back in 2012? Got to hear a lot about who could be approaching Nick Saban from the West. Now, so much, we look at the East, and everybody kind of points to Kirby Smart as being the new kid on the block. Obviously, an incredible recruiting class last time around. Barely loses in overtime to Bama in the national title game, but I asked this question to you guys out there that are watching the show. If it's not Kirby Smart, and we're not looking at Georgia as somebody that could really end the reign of Bama in the SEC, then who is it going to be? I don't think it's going to be anybody if it's not Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, and I really honestly don't think it's going to be Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. I love Kirby, have a ton of respect for what's going on down in Athens right now, have a ton of respect for that program. I think they can go toe-to-toe really with the amount of talent they're going to have in their roster. But it is hard for me to look at it and say, hey, anybody can be Nick Saban number 2. I just don't think dynasties come along that often. And I think Nick Saban still has quite a few more years left in terms of the dynasty that he is trying to build there in Tuscaloosa. Kirby Smart, for all the great things he's done, I think he's going to be a good head coach. I think he's going to be a great head coach. I think he's already won championships, won the SEC championship last year. But still, like, quite a long way to go when you talk about terms of managing the team, especially in game. Right there at our friend Ronald Evans over at Bama Hammer, kind of highlighting the fact that Kirby Smart done some good things, still a little bit of a long way to go. Now, will it be Florida? Will it be Dan Mullen down at Florida? Yes, I think Dan Mullen's a great coach. Did he ever beat Nick Saban when he's at Mississippi State? No. Is he ranked 35th in the country right now in terms of recruiting? Absolutely. That's going to be a little bit head scratcher for me. Will Muschamp there at South Carolina, will he be coming out of the East to knock off Nick Saban? Will he be able to build something? Possibly. Will Muschamp looks like he's quiet at home. He's got Jake Bentley. He's got a new offensive coordinator over there. But let's be honest, Will Muschamp was fired from Florida for a reason. He hasn't been to the SEC championship for a reason while he's been there at South Carolina. Still a ton of uphill room to go when in terms of what's going on with them. So I think it's an interesting thing to kind of dive into, really, the question being, who do you think is going to be able to knock off Bama and Nick Saban in the years to come? I don't think anybody's really that close. And obviously, the rest of the college football world, and we mentioned the ESPN bias, how they're trying to point in any direction other than Alabama right now. Got bad news for a lot of people in the college football landscape. This is going to be something that a lot of people aren't going to want to see for the next 5, 6, 7 years, in my opinion, in terms of what Nick Saban's going to be able to do. Love Kirby, have a ton of respect, like I said, but I don't know that really, in the end, that's the team we're going to be pointing to that's going to be knocking off Alabama for the next 5 years. Maybe possible, maybe so, but still a lot of legwork to be able to put in before that dynasty really begins over there in Athens. I do want to transition in here to topic number 2, and obviously you guys keep weighing in on what's going on too. And CJ Watson weighs in and says, while that Georgia has done in 2 years is impressive, and he's got one amazing recruiting class, it's going to take 5 years of doing what Bama has done to be a dynasty. Bama wasn't a dynasty until it proved year after year we can send 10 starters to the league and have no drop-off in talent. Experience, sure, there's a drop-off, but talent, it's there, and that's exactly what I'm trying to talk about in terms of weighing these two programs. I definitely think there's a threat. Year after year, there's always going to be a threat out of Athens with Kirby Smart locked and loaded with all that talent, but there's still a huge window left in front of those guys over there before they really get into that Nick Saban type of cycle. I do want to highlight for the next topic too, Bama lands a 4-star running back yesterday out of the Washington, D.C. area. That's Elin Robinson, incredible talent up there out of St. John's College in Washington, D.C. Remember now, this is Michael Loxley where he goes up into Maryland. He's always able to land some of these recruits. I got the tweet right here from Elin Robinson yesterday. I'm committed. Kind of has an Alabama video to be able to play for him on his commitment. We're not going to play the video for you guys, but I think it really is incredible what Michael Loxley's been able to do. Now, remember, this is where Shane Lee's is from up there in Baltimore. DeMarco Helms is up there from Hyattsville, Maryland. This is Bama's 17th commitment of the 2019 cycle. Remember, I think they only signed 19 last year in terms of people they were able to get on board on signing day right there in February. So it is really, really crazy to look back when you're in June right now and look forward towards the future. This is the number one recruiting class by an absolute country mile. I always say that day to day, and I love reminding people of what's really going on in terms of that recruiting. Elin Robinson, just another guy to add to the list. Obviously, Bama's kind of had its way in terms of running back recruits over the last few years. Adding Najee Harris 2 years ago ended up being a big deal. Obviously, down the stretch, he was able to do some incredible things, especially there in the national title game. Elin Robinson kind of goes along that same picture. Obviously, Brian Robinson, Damian Harris, Najee Harris, all the names going back right on down the roster in terms of what Bama has. But I think Elin Robinson is going to fit in really well. Now, this is not a top 100 commit. It's not a top 10 commit. This is somebody that Nick Saban really, really seems to like. Got an offer a couple of months ago, got on campus a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, that offer became committable when he got on campus. He had some interesting comments here, I think to 247 Sports possibly. Yeah, there it is right there. It's a Brian Doan from 247 Sports about the commitment. I always knew that I'm one of the best players in the country, and to have that best college football team in the country offer me a chance to play for their team only proves that. I know that Bama wins and brings the best out for of their players. They expect nothing but championship effort, and I think it's incredible that Nick Saban's able to kind of pick apart some of these guys and really, really focus in on guys that are willing to lend a hand and focus in on what they think that championship impact could possibly be in terms of what a guy like Elin Robinson could be bringing to the landscape there in Tuscaloosa. Is a good running back, a shifty running back, some nice top-end speed. Anybody that has seen his highlight video is one of those people that are really going to like what he has to do. I think we have William Vallejos on the line right now, ready to go. This is my good buddy William Vallejos, obviously up in Buffalo, New York these days as an offensive assistant under Brian Dable and the Buffalo Bills. Played with me over at Alabama. Obviously, a lot of people remember William Vallejos, a little bit of a fan favorite back in his time back in Tuscaloosa. Buddy, how you doing, man? I appreciate you finally getting a chance to join the show.
Michael, great to be on, man. Great to be on.
Yeah, and it's good to man. We got a picture of you up on the full screen. It looks like you're pretty upset there in your days at Alabama. You had that grimace, kind of calling out the mic points. I have so many college memories of you standing next to me and kind of getting things collected there up front. But man, I appreciate you joining the show. Finally, we got a chance to bring you on here on this Thursday here in late June, and I do want to get your input too, because obviously you've been a coach at Alabama for the last few years, been an offensive assistant there. Now you move on to the NFL game. Highlight for us what the differences have been and really your transition to the NFL and trying to get a grip on what it's like coaching in college football, what it's like coaching in the NFL, and what possibly you could like the best about each one.
Well, first of all, you can talk to your friends in the media and go on their radio show if you want in pro ball. So you obviously couldn't do that in Tuscaloosa. Look, you're coaching guys that are the best in the world at what they do. You tell them one time to do something, they do it. You know, and if they ain't doing it, then they get somebody else. The schedule is a lot better as far as free time. There's no recruiting. And 5-6 years ago, because the NFL schedule is like twice as long. You're playing 16 games guaranteed plus 4 preseason. That's 20. Well, heck, Alabama's played 15 the last 2-3 years, right? So the schedules are getting pretty similar in duration. As far as negatives go at this level, there's really not. I remember I asked Kirby Smart, before he left, if he would be interested in going back to the NFL, and he said probably not, because it's important to him to raise his family in the South. And if you want to do that in pro ball, you're talking the Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and Titans, and that's it. So the odds of staying on a staff at one of those 4 places is extremely rare. So it's hard enough to get jobs and keep jobs in this business these days. So, but I've certainly enjoyed it. It's certainly been a change of pace as far as the weather. Right now it's wonderful. It's 74 outside and sunny and no humidity, but it was, I had to trade in my 2-wheel drive when I got here. So it's been great. I've enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man. I do want to go into the topic a little bit, and we're going to move on to A.J. McCarron a little bit. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks down in Alabama coming up in a little bit, but I do want to stay on this topic for just a second with you right now. We talked a lot about Joe Pendry a couple of weeks ago on this show and really his retirement and what he has meant to Alabama football. What's a guy like Joe Pendry meant to your career? And obviously I've echoed a ton of sentiments out there on Twitter and throughout the show. Love to get your opinion on what Joe Pendry really has meant to Alabama football.
Well, as far as me personally, before I get to the organization, I don't think I ever would have played if he wasn't there. I didn't have many offers coming out of high school. Joe coached Mike Webster. He's had little guys back throughout the years of his career, and he's had success with them. So my height and stature was not a problem for him. And he's always swung a big stick down there, and he's got Nick's ear. So he liked me. He said I was the guy he wanted to play. He trusted me to play. So I really owe everything to the guy. He obviously wasn't on the staff that recruited me or offered me a scholarship, but as far as establishing myself and getting the chance to prove that I could play, I don't think I'd do that without him. Now, as far as what he's done with the program, obviously the lineman he developed for 4 years. He recently just retired, but look, he was hands on in a lot of areas, whether it's watching tape, giving some feedback here and there, eval and high school kids. The guy's invaluable, and his experience, his judgment has always been extremely sound. He's obviously a great friend of mine, and owe a lot to the guy.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of love here in our Facebook comment section. Chris McLeod saying one of the best centers to ever come out of the capstone. Malachi Morgan saying, Vallejos, great memories of you, Mike, Carpenter, Barrett Jones, and Warmack anchoring those offensive lines early in the Saban years. Definitely have a lot of great members for myself. One of the guys that was standing in front of you for a lot of those early years under Nick Saban, A.J. McCarron, obviously up in the NFL with you now. And give us a little update on A.J. We don't ever get to hear about what A.J.'s doing. Obviously, a lot of things behind closed doors. What have you seen with your own 2 eyes in terms of what A.J. McCarron's trying to do, trying to get a starting gig there in the NFL?
Yeah, first of all, I think he's grown up a lot. He's a good kid. He's a smart guy. He's very bright. We talked before he came up here. He just get my opinion on the staff, the area, whatever. I think he made a great decision to come here. I think he did a great job in the OTAs. He's certainly got that leadership factor to him. And look, I think the arm's adequate, the intelligence is good, all that type of stuff. There's nothing he really can't do. He actually runs better than people give him credit for. I would say the biggest thing with the guy is that, look, the guy's played on the biggest stages in the history of the sport. You know what I mean? I know people say Kansas City's loud, Seattle's loud. That ain't LSU, where he's throwing screen passes to win the game. And because the guy's played in, however many national championship games. And I remember his first, and I thought the guy was going to, it'd be human nature to kind of piss down your leg, and he was freaking solid, man. I mean, he had no issues. I've never seen him get rattled. From the second or third game of the year, his first year starting versus Penn State, there's a trillion people, waving white towels and stuff. The guy's completely unfazed. So he's, that's a huge credit to him and his composure, and I think that's allowed him to go as far as he had, and he started a playoff game, and they should have won it at the end of the game. The guy drops the ball, they should have won the game. So it's great to have him here. He's a friend. Known him for long time. It's good to be around him again.
I do want to dive, too, in another quarterback situation, obviously another quarterback competition, not in the NFL, and that's back at Alabama. Give us a little bit of insight, though, man. You were inside of that locker room last year. You were inside of those coaches' meeting rooms. Can you give us any insight on really what the decision was like between Tua, between Jalen? At what point last year in the season did you understand what kind of talent Tua had? Give us a little bit of insight, or whatever insight you can possibly give us, just how crazy that entire quarterback situation was last year, not only for the team but the coaching staff as well.
I wouldn't say I don't know if crazy is the word I'd use. Like, look, Tua throws the ball better than Jalen does. That's not a surprise. The guy throws the football better. He has more arm talent. Whatever. However, there's things that Jalen gives you that Tua doesn't exactly give you either. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman, and now nobody wants him to play. I mean, the Player of the Year in the best conference in college. So look, the guy does a lot of things. I think they're both great teammates. They both study the game. They're smart. But it doesn't take an NFL general manager to say, all right, Tua throws the ball a little better. And that's look, Jalen runs the ball a little better. Jalen makes a run check a little better, so that they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I don't know if crazy is the word. Obviously the end of the season, the way the second half went the last game, obviously that was interesting and maybe, leads you to say what you're saying. But crazy is not how I would have described it when I was there.
Now, you were a part of some of those conversations as well at the end of the year. I mean, take us inside of that a little bit. Was it something where, one guy wanted somebody to start and maybe some of the other coaches' staff maybe understood how good Tua was? I mean, how delicate of a situation, I guess maybe is a better word, that situation was at the end of the year?
Yeah, again, I don't know how delicate it was. I mean, I never witnessed any arguing or people going at each other's throats to try to get what they want relative to which quarterback's going to play. I mean, we didn't lose the game, you know what I mean, until the Auburn game. And then so I'm not sure everybody wants the other guy to play as much as the perception is out there. Again, now maybe as far as getting the package together, all right, where Tua's in there for some concepts and maybe Jalen's playing another position on the field on offense. That was discussed when it was very apparent that he was ready to command the offense and to make the throws that he needed to make that maybe the other guy couldn't. But I don't think it was a tug of war of power brokers as far as getting their way relative to the quarterback.
Well, that's some interesting stuff there. Obviously, a guy like William Vallejos has the insight from the coaches' locker room to be able to talk about that. I do want to highlight the offensive line real quick, too, because obviously you had your hand on the pulse of this offensive line for the last few years. A little bit of a shakeup this year, and obviously Jonah's playing left tackle, and there's a little bit of a battle going on at right tackle right now. Jedrick Wills, Matty Womack coming back off injury. How do you think this offensive line sets up to the season? Because I know the talent's there. I know that these guys are an incredible group of guys. I mean, give us a left to right along the offensive line, if you will, and how do you see things kind of shaking out for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, there hasn't been a poor offensive line there in the last 10 years. I mean, some have been better than others. From what I can tell in my experiences there, the ones that were, the best ones, if you were to try to pinpoint two or three, were the ones that had the most experience. And if you look at the left side, I mean, I don't know how many games these guys started, maybe somebody does, but it's a lot. I mean, 71's on pace to start 60 games as a college player. That would be a record. Started every game he's freaking, been at the campus on. So, I mean, you know, and I don't know if Ross can block the Dominican Soup or 70 plays a game, but he's a good player, and he blocks him every Saturday. So, and Jonah, obviously, Jonah's awesome, does a great job, and he's been playing, you know, for 2 years. So, you know, I don't think you got to worry too much about that side, you know, having a mental error. But you look, the young guys are talented as they have. You know, we've gotten accustomed to having them. You know, Leatherwood, you know, sky's limit for that guy. Played well at the end of the year. Wills, sky's limit for that guy too. I mean, these are two guys that are no-brainers as far as are they going to be good players in this league. You know, and who's the right guard? Who they have the right guard with the one?
I think it was Jedrick Wills in the A-Day game, and maybe a little bit of Leatherwood mixed in there too. They've done a couple of different things from what I've seen.
Yeah, they'll move them around. They're trying to get the best five, like everybody is that time of year. Look, I think Womack did a good job last year. He's tough. He's dependable. You know, he knows what he's doing. Look, again, I don't know if he can block Clowney every third down, but he does a really good job for what they ask him to do. And I'll say this about offensive line in general. You know, most teams do, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for these guys, but just give them credit, really. Most teams do not run spread offenses and run 3 tight ends out on the field and run those type plays too. But since 2014 with Lane, Alabama has done that. And, you know, spread offenses used to be an easy complement to throw in your package, but they're not anymore because every team used to play 4 down front, and now everybody plays, you know, odd with 4 eyes in their sub package, which totally changes who you're reading. You got to have discussions about who the read is. All right, now what if they pressure on that side? Who's the read? So the odds front have added some mental gymnastics to what used to be a very simple, easy scheme that you could teach an entire offense in 5 minutes and go run 100 plays in a quarter and whatever. There's now some controversy or some discussion about, hey man, how we blocking that? You know, so and Alabama does, and they do it well. You know, Ole Miss, Auburn, you know, they don't necessarily do much pro style stuff. And then you look at the few remaining true pro style teams, whether it's Georgia, LSU, Arkansas, when they were doing that stuff, they're not spreading the ball, and then they're not getting in tempo stuff and spreading it out. So I think Alabama linemen, look, they got good coaches there. Brent does a great job, but that is a decent amount to ask of your linemen. So they do a great job of handling that year in, year out.
Boy, that's some interesting stuff there from William Vallejos. Now, before I let you go, I want to get you to chime in on a conversation we've had with a couple of our old teammates, Corey Reamer, John Parker Wilson. Had Preston Dial, your boy Preston Dial, on here yesterday. And I've asked a question to all of them, and you have a little bit of a different insight on this question too. So before we let you go, I want to get your insight. Now, Bama plays Tennessee every year. Obviously, they don't see Georgia every year, but they might get them in the SEC championship game. Bigger threat in your eyes to Alabama's dynasty or Alabama year in and year out? Do you think that is Jeremy Pruitt, or do you think that's Kirby Smart at Georgia? Bigger threat to Alabama?
Well, I don't think anyone can say right now that it's Jeremy Pruitt because he hasn't done it yet. I think he will. I mean, Tennessee's been bad for a decade. But Kirby Smart's got that place rolling. I got a lot of friends over there on that staff that, I mean, they're running it like a T to what Nick's done. And I watched the video on Twitter the other day. Their kid camp, their youth camp, and he's handing out the same awards, shaking the guy's hands, having the ops guy do whatever. So I mean, it's to a T the same program. And you can actually recruit in the state of Georgia. It's harder to recruit in the state of Tennessee, but Pruitt's a phenomenal recruiter, as is Kirby. And Pruitt's outstanding recruiting. So I think Pruitt's going to get it going, but I would say that I think there will be more differences in what Pruitt's doing there and what Nick's done and what Pruitt's observed. I think Pruitt will do a couple things on his own differently, and I think Kirby does less differently. I think he does most of it, basically what we did. So it remains to be seen who will be better. I mean, but right now you have to say Kirby Smart because heck, he almost beat us. Probably should have, So I would say Kirby.
Yeah, boy, that's some interesting stuff. And I think the overall people have said Kirby. John Parker Wilson, he kind of went on a limb and did talk about Jeremy Pruitt a little bit more. But, hey, man, I appreciate you joining us here, obviously, for this Thursday edition of Roll Tide Daily. I know you've seen the show a couple of times, but Bama fans are keeping up with you, man. We're rooting for you, and hopefully you have a good year up there in Buffalo, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
Enjoyed it, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
All right. That's William Vallejos, played center alongside me, led some really, really good Alabama offensive lines. And there he is in Buffalo as assistant coach. A lot of good insight, man. That was an incredible interview. Then he gives some insight into really the decision made between Tua and Jalen last year and what possibly could be the upside of both those guys heading into the competition for this 2018 football season. So some good stuff for him. Really quickly, I want to highlight this Tua conversation we kind of started in the show, and this all comes from a Daniel Jeremiah kind of Twitter Q&A session, and it was a 3-letter answer yesterday to a huge Twitter conversation he was kind of having yesterday. He gets the question on his Twitter account, who wins the Heisman Trophy in 2018? We have the tweet yesterday from Daniel Jeremiah to show you. There it is right there. 3 letters. Tua. And, this comes on the heels of him talking a lot about Tua Tagovailoa over the last few months. We have the full screen graphic from Jocks that he was able to talk to those guys a little while back, and he just says, hey, listen, the foot speed, the size, the accuracy, the anticipation, everything he saw out of the Elite 11 camp a few weeks ago, really highlight what Tua is able to do. Now, I did ask you guys early in the show if you thought Tua was receiving too much hype. A bunch of you guys weighed in, said, listen, I can't find any of the Facebook comments right now, but Tua is hyped up for a reason, that the talent level is there and that the talent level around him really at Alabama is to be there to where he can reach any kind of height that he wants to. And a lot of you guys are really excited about the upside of what Tua could possibly be. James Curry weighing in says, right now Tua is a little overrated based on one half of play, but the potential to be great is definitely there. Roll Tide, and absolutely love hearing from all of you guys there in the comment section. Before we let you go, and as you guys know, it is Throwback Thursday. I did want to highlight one of my favorite plays from my my career path there in college football, and this happened in the Rose Bowl. We highlighted the Rose Bowl a couple of days ago, talking about the best bowl game destinations for Alabama that you guys might like to see him play in. Well, one of the best plays, one of the biggest plays really in Alabama history, the Marcel Darius interception in the Rose Bowl there back in 2009 against the Texas Longhorn. I think we have that video queued up to show you. Really enjoy this Throwback Thursday right here.
Garrett Gilbert, the quarterback. Utah shovel pass in the middle, picked up by Darius. Marcel Darius. Darius to the 15. He spins to the 5. Touchdown! Touchdown! Marcel Darius with flags on the play for celebration, but Marcel Darius picks up a Utah shovel pass, does a pirouette, the big man does, at 6'4", 296. Pirouettes at about
Boy, if that don't give you chill bumps right there, you probably don't have much of a pulse, especially if you're an Alabama fan. A lot of guys weighing in. Terrence Brandon saying twinkle toe spin move. You hear Eli Gold there, never gets old, talking about the Utah shovel pass. Marcel Darius taking it in for a score. I think that made it 24-6, possibly right before halftime. We had to get it calmed down at halftime. We were so excited about that play and really had to refocus on what we had to do in the second half. Texas obviously made a run there in the second half and made it quite a close game towards the end. Appreciate everybody weighing in the comment section. As you guys know, I touched on it a little bit at the top of the show. This Saturday, June 30th, is the last day for SEC Country. We've been trying to work as hard as we can behind the scenes to make sure Roll Tide Daily could possibly continue on. We're going to take a little bit of a hiatus. We're going to take what we're calling a summer break over the next few weeks in anticipation and in hopes that we can possibly get back to you guys for the start of the season there in August and there in September and on down the road to hopefully the road to the 18th national championship for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So appreciate everybody that has shared the show. I appreciate everybody that has watched the show. I appreciate all you guys behind the glass for all the work you've been doing for the last 6 weeks here on Roll Tide Daily. Thank you for everybody that's been a part of it so far. Like I said, we're hoping to get back with you guys, and hopefully this is just a short summer break hiatus over the next week or 2 or 3. But until I see you guys next, and obviously as the saying goes, it's not goodbye, it's see you later. Hope to see you guys again at some point in the near future, and always keep that app updated on Facebook. You never know when we might pop up on you. So you guys have a great weekend, have a great rest of the summer, and you guys have a good day and Roll Tide.
You've been watching Roll Tide Daily, the new daily program for Crimson Tide fans, presented by SEC Country.